Hi, this is Keith Webb with Charles Hooper, and we are here for the Coaching Side Gig preview webinar. And last Friday, Charles and I did a preview of the preview on Facebook. We were previewing what we're going to preview. And so now we're just actually previewing what we're going to do, not what we previewed. So Charles and I came up with this. We were talking about that. I've been talking about doing a course like this for a long time. And Charles and I have talked about it over the years too, and been saying, hey, you know, we should really do something like that. And it's like, yeah. When there's time but we're too busy doing all of our other stuff. Well, a lot of our other stuff just stopped and it just got changed. And then we saw the big need that people have. Because we're talking about, it is coaching side gig. It's the idea of how do we go from maybe from 0 to 1,000 a month through coaching. Now you can change the through coaching and apply the same techniques to whatever else you're doing through training or through whatever it is you have going. The big thing though is I want us to catch that it is about how we can make some extra money, but we're not trying to, this isn't a money grabbing thing. This is a serving people thing. This is provides such great value to people that they're willing to pay for it. That's what we're really after. And if you want to charge money in between time, then that's perfectly fine. And so really, I want to just frame the whole discussion in that spirit. This is not a spirit of how can we make the most money we can? How can we make money off of people's unfortunate circumstances? It's not about that at all. It's about sharing. Someone once said, what's easy for you is difficult for other people. For me and Charles, what we're going to talk about has become easy for us, or easier for us, right? But it's not easy for other people. This is a way we can add value to you. And we want to add value in such a way that you can get great stuff today, but also join the full course. And so that's what we mean by it. And I'm still seeing people pop up over on the side of you all wanting to get in the room, and I'm controlling it. So we're wanting to add that kind of value that people will do that. So I wanted to introduce Charles. Charles Hooper is an MCC Master Certified Coach. I've worked with Charles for a number of years. Charles is going to tell you some of his story, but I'll preview just a little bit. Charles was a senior pastor for 29 years, or a pastor for 29 years in big church and other churches like this. And Charles was doing coaching on the side. So Charles has lived coaching side gig. He's been from 0 to a bit. And then, shock of shock, a few years ago, Charles had to make a switch and went full-time coaching and training. And so he's really been through this and done this. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Charles. Charles, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. It's great to see everybody, and wanted to give you some value add things and also just talk about those of you who would be interested in going deeper into this topic. We'd love to have you on our 10-week course together. I remember after I had completed most of my coach training, and as Keith said, I was on staff with a large church, and one of the guys that I was associated with said, hey, I know you're getting some coach training. Would you mind coaching me? And I said, well, yeah, that'd be great. I'm still trying to get hours for certification. And so I coached him for 10 sessions. And he just said, Charles, this has been probably the best leadership development I have ever gotten. And he said, I feel bad that.
Whoop. Sorry, Charles. I muted everybody else and it muted you. Sorry.
All right. So
We're
I just
still getting
myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this guy asked me if I would coach him. I coached him for 10 sessions. He said it was the most powerful leadership development he had ever had. And he felt bad. And he said, how much could I pay you? And I was totally unprepared for that question. Mm. And I just thought about the little dollar bill on a lot of restaurants, you know, their first dollar. And so I said, just pay me $1. And so next Sunday at church, he gave me a crisp $1 bill. I don't have it framed in my office, but I probably should have. And then about a week later, he said, you know, I realized it's so much more valuable than that. Can I just round it up to $100? And so I just thought, wow, my first $100 that I got for coaching, this is amazing. And then that next week, I thought, wow, I wonder if I could actually make money doing this. Of course, I know a lot of other people do, but that really wasn't my motive. I had a full paycheck that was very sufficient with the church, but I started getting more opportunities for people asking about that. My role at the church actually changed. I went into a different code that was lower. So I asked permission. Hey, with real clear boundaries, could I coach a limited number of clients and charge them for that? And my boss said, yeah, that sounds great. And so that's kind of how my side gig thing got started. So, what I wanted to do here, and Keith and I are going to go back and forth a little bit, is just to share around 10 key topics that we're going to look at on the group together, and then highlight on a couple of those and double click down. And then we're going to put you in a breakout room for a few minutes with two other people and give you a chance to interact on this and get to know each other a little bit. You might be with a friend that you've had a class together. So the first topic is the idea of glorifying God through business. And, you know, this is a big question. Some people might think, can you actually glorify God through business? And then you hear some people that say, my ministry and the way I glorify God is through business. And so there's a continuum of thought about that. And that was one thing I really had to grapple with coming out of a ministry mindset. And, you know, Jesus said in Luke 19:13, this very interesting verse. I feel like for years I either over spiritualized this or maybe just didn't even see it. But he said, engage in business until I come. I thought, wow, that's very interesting. And if we were to just back up theologically and look at redemption in four key phases, you would see creation, fall, redemption or renovation, and then consummation, where Jesus says at the end, I will make all things new. Mm. And perhaps you've heard this little statement, you know, the only two things that last are the word of God and the souls of men. And that's only partially true. And so we don't have time right now to go into it, but you look at Romans 8, you look at Isaiah 65, 66, Revelation 20, 21, and you see that God is going to make all things new, not just people, but his creation, cultures, all kind of things. And so viewing business from a broader theological foundation is something that we need to consider, especially when it comes to that time that person says, hey, can I pay you for coaching? And so these were things that went through my mind. I want to talk a little bit about the second topic and then put you in a breakout room. And that's the idea of shifting our money-making mindset. And so that's something that anyone that does business, whether it be small scale, little cottage industry, which is kind of what we're thinking about with Side Gig, all the way to how do Christians interact in the business world in a corporate setting. And so obviously we have to think about money biblically, but we also have to think about this idea of making money from a faith perspective. And in essence, we're kind of being like entrepreneurs. And so Michael Gerber has written an excellent book called The E-Myth, and he talks about the three hats of being an entrepreneur. And this is the expression of our biblical stewardship. And so there's the entrepreneur, and this is the person who is having to see the vision and to initiate conversations, to serve people. Then there's the technician, and those are our ICF coaching skills. When we get on a call or a Zoom or face-to-face, we need to be able to produce the results that they want. So that's the technician. And then there's the manager. And so how do we invoice? How do we keep up with taxes? How do we send out agreements and invoices and all the kind of the back office stuff. And so we're thinking about money as an entrepreneur wearing those three hats. And so we'll unpack more of that. So many of you have had to raise support, and you've done that for a mission trip or perhaps for your job. Those of you in church-based ministry, you have capital campaigns, and so you know that that is a by faith type thing as it relates to money. And so we have to have a biblically based view of money, but also as we actually think about charging for our coaching services, that's what's going to show perhaps where we have maybe some messed up thinking about money and charging for services. And so when we go to a Christian doctor, we expect to be charged. When we go to a Christian CPA, we expect to be charged. When we go to a Christian retailer and buy their products, we expect to be charged. But yet as a Christian coach, if we're charging money, we think, oh, it's ministry, it's supposed to be free. And so that may be a mindset that you have. So let's pause there. We've talked about kind of the idea of business as ministry, engaging in business till I come, and some money thoughts. And so we're going to put you in a breakout room for 3 minutes and just jump right into the conversation. Don't worry about introductions. Just any insight or thought that this stirs up for you, and then we'll come back in 3 minutes.
All right. So I'm going to I'm going to automatically send you off to breakout rooms. There'll be 3 or 4 people in a room. You're going to have about 3 minutes. And the last minute timer is going to start. It's going to say that your breakout room will close in 1 minute and we'll start counting down. So use the whole minute. Wait until it will automatically put you back into this main room. So use the whole minute, because I'm going to hit that timer at about 2.5 minutes, and then it will be 60 seconds more, and it will bring you back. Okay. So you guys are going to have to share pretty quick. Now, as soon as I click the button here, you need to click accept to go to your breakout room. So watch for it right now and open all rooms. So you got to join. So click to join it. And we'll see you back here in a couple of minutes.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you saw how helpful those breakout rooms can be. Some of you have experienced that in some of our classes, and others of you, those breakout rooms might be a new tool for you to see. We love using that. And our class is going to be very interactional. So there'll be a little bit of discussion. We'll use the breakout rooms, and we want to make sure that it's very helpful for you. So let's move on to the next couple of topics. So the third topic is the idea of confirming your ideal client and your client acquisition process. And perhaps you've already done some work thinking about how you can offer your coaching services. And I know some of you perhaps might be other type of professional service type people, whether it's attorney or accounting or consulting. And so again, some of these principles will apply to any of that. One of the counterintuitive things that I learned is the more you narrow your niche, the wider your impact will be. And I really resisted this for a long time because I thought, I don't want to, yeah, I mean, I don't want to cut out anybody, because I mean, I really can help anybody. And although that's technically true, the more narrow you get, then people who fit that narrow bullseye will be attracted to that a lot easier. Plus, if you're trying to get people to refer you to other people, they need to know that this is the specific thing that you offer. But I discovered very quickly that as I narrowed that niche down, people would say, hey, I know that you help these type people, but could you also help me? And usually the answer is yes. So that's something that you have to overcome as people say, well, you know, who do you help? Or how could you serve me? And it's okay to be more narrow, even if they may not be in that bullseye. So you might want to just draw a circle of who the people that you love to coach. And instead of saying, well, I coach leaders, well, what kind of leaders? Okay, what are the specific needs of those leaders? And just keep getting it more and more narrow so that you can very quickly say who you best serve. And what'll happen is you're able to serve those people and these people and these people. So that's another idea.
Hey,
The
Charles,
fourth topic,
can I
yeah,
ask a
go ahead,
question?
Keith.
Hey,
Yeah,
can you give us an example here? I'll ask you to be vulnerable. So what was an old broad like niche that you were like, oh, I've narrowed it and it's this, but now you look back and go, wow, it's so huge. And then where have you settled today? And I know you may have several ways that you
yeah,
message.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, at first, it's just like when I discovered coaching, I thought, I just want to coach anybody and their brother. And then I started to narrow it down to primarily men, although I have had women clients. And then it was leaders. And then I began to narrow it down to age 35 to 55. And then I continued to narrow it down, leaders who are high performing or high performing leaders. And then I started to narrow it down to leaders in new positions. And then I also thought about leaders who were helping newer leaders.
Hmm.
And so I came up with this little thing, HYPO, we know what that stands for, high potential leaders, new rows, which are people in new roles, and then yogos, leaders who are saying, you go, you're ready now. And so leadership development with people who are high potential, people in new roles, or leaders who are helping those type people. So that's how I've attempted to try to get it as narrow as possible. And then some people have said, well, I know you work with high potentials and people in new roles, but do you help with strategic planning? I sure do. Do you help with career development? I sure do. So it's tended to be executive leaders, C-suite, vice president, director level, and primarily those in the corporate world, although I do coach some missionaries and some pastors and nonprofits. So that's
Great.
kind of how I've seen that circle get a little bit more narrow. All right. Well, let's think about the fourth topic, and that's the idea of inviting potential clients into intentional conversations. And so I've just been amazed at how many people want to help us as coaches market our business. And I've fallen for some kind of cheesy things through the years. And I thought, wow, I paid some money for some kind of cheesy things that ended up just going into his or her bank account, but it didn't work for me. And so I've just decided for me, I want to invite potential clients into intentional conversations. And so I know in coaching, many of us have been trained that coaching is an intentional, ongoing conversation. But then I had this uncomfortable thing of selling coaching. I loved this, I hated this. And I realized that we can actually create clients by having the same or very similar type conversations with potential clients like we do with clients. And so the simple question that I started asking people as I was just having a conversation with them was, do you need help with that? And I don't even ever have to say, oh, have you thought of hiring a coach? Or, oh, I'm a coach. Would you want to talk to me about buying coaching? So just simply saying, do you need help with that? And it just opens up some doors that could lead into an opportunity for us to talk about that. And so, I used to have what I would call ineffective sales calls. It was all about me. It was all about my training. It was all about my certification. It was all how I could help you. And it was a total coach centered approach.
Hmm.
And then I started to switch to be totally client centered. What are their needs? What are their dreams? What are their pain points? What is the urgency? And so that might be something to think about, is create clients by coaching them and totally shifting away from a coach focused sales call to a client focused invitation type call. And in this class, we're going to actually talk about some proven ways that not just Keith and I have been able to do this, but we're bringing an aggregating some content that many others have found to be super helpful there. Keith, anything that you would add to that?
Yeah. Let's well, you know what I'd love to do is I'd love to hear the principle that Charles is talking about is exactly right. Is the best sales thing you can do is listen to the customer, listen to the potential customer. They will tell you everything if you listen and ask questions. They'll tell you what they're trying to accomplish, what they've tried already that didn't work. They'll tell you what they're afraid of in finding help, or they're afraid of with coaching. They'll tell you it all if you just listen to them. And so it's amazing. It's sell, quote unquote, sell coaching by coaching. And just you're demonstrating it. So when I get on a sales call with somebody and they're selling to me, if they just like telling me all about their stuff, about how good they are and all the customer results they've had from other people, blah, 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 they don't listen to me at all. I just feel like I've gotten some information and it's good, and I still might buy from them, but it's like this deep, this deep. But I had somebody more recently, and this guy, it was construction even. It was interesting. He's remodeler, and a remodeler aren't my ideal, people for usually communication skills, but his was pretty good. And he asked, so you're wanting to redo your bathrooms. Well, what do you and Lori envision your bathroom to be like? And I said this and this, and he goes, how do you want to feel when you're in it, in that bathroom? And I thought, oh, how do I want to be warm. Right? I'm always cold. The floor is cold. I'm coming out of the shower. I'm cold. It's cold in Seattle here. Right. But he was really good because he listened to me, and he started tapping into the emotion of imagining what it would feel like if I could be in that warm, pleasant, put together, nice space of a bathroom. If I could start my day that way. Wow. And I'm like, okay, so take my money, like this. And so anyway, we put it all on hold because of this thing, but we've been like saving up for a while to do it. But you get the idea. You're using your coaching skills to hear from people. And that's where I think it's not a disconnect. And I like that, Charles, I like your point. It's not selling and coaching. They can be a similar conversation. And yes, you're going to invite them to action. That's the action steps. You're going to invite them to, I can help you with this kind of thing. Would you like to explore further or talk further or hear how that would happen? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's a certain way that you have that conversation that's very coach-like. The part of that conversation that's the most difficult is actually getting the price out of your lips. And I think when your thoughts about money and business are not right, it's going to be hard for you to actually say that. And yet that's a critical point in the conversation. And so most of us would know from our training how to just invite someone into a coaching relationship. And it's kind of fun and easy when they're not paying us. But the reason we're interested in doing this is because we maybe want a little fun money, or we want a little side gig money, or we're thinking, I need to develop some extra income here. So that's one thing that we're going to focus on in our course is actually, I'm going to provide a template that you can use that has some things that already you use, but then that critical part of how do you transition to the money part, and how can you do it without freaking out and freaking them out? And how can we stay in that space of the Holy Spirit guiding us? We don't have to violate any of our convictions or Christian ethics, not to be cheesy and salesy, and none of us want that. But how do you actually, by faith, talk about the money part so that we're serving them? And we know that when someone invests time or money into something, it's going to be more valuable and they're actually going to get better results. And so that's one of the little things that is so helpful, that we're actually benefiting them by them actually exchanging some of their resources for the services that we provide. And I'm of the, not really the conviction, but of the preference that I won't coach anyone free, even if it's a ministry setting. I want them to have some skin in the game, because not do I need a couple of their dollars? No, they will get better benefits if they pay. And so that might be a mindset that you need to cultivate there. So we're going to mention a few other things and go into a breakout room again. The fifth topic is the idea of marketing without being cheesy. And I either laugh or I get angry when I see some of the ways that professional service people try to market their services. And so there's a couple of different key ways that professional service people market. And if you try to take someone else's strategy, but it doesn't fit you, your personality, your conviction, your style, it's not going to work for you. And therefore marketing is just going to be a bore. It's going to be terrible for you. And I've tried about almost every single marketing approach that's out there. And I've found the one or two that I really like. And so we're going to look at those different marketing approaches, and then hopefully you're going to figure out which is the one you really like. And so we'll look at a marketing pyramid and figure out what needs to be at the top and what needs to be at the bottom. And if I think about the areas that are, for me, the least effective, for some people, that's the most effective. And then the areas that I've picked as my top two most important might be on the bottom of the pyramid for other people. And so the key is we want to figure out our style of marketing, what's the best way to do it, and then really get good at that particular type of style. And so we've talked about a couple of things here already, with the idea of inviting people into coaching conversations, not selling coaching, but creating clients through coaching. And then this idea of asking for help, switching to a client-centered approach instead of a coach-centered approach, and then figuring out our marketing strategy. So let's go back into the breakout rooms for 3 minutes and just interact with your smaller group there on anything that you thought was interesting or you wanted to explore.
Okay, so I'm going to try and put us back in the same group, and we'll see what happens. So accept it, and we'll see where we end up.
So you're going to pause the recording. All right, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had a good discussion. And that's one thing that we're going to use in this course is the breakout rooms. So you'll be able to get to know other folks and get some personal attention. I wanted to mention in the chat feature, I've chatted the link for the course. And so we're not going to go through the other topics, but I did want to highlight on week 8, we're going to talk about group coaching. And actually, we're going to teach this as a group coaching course. And many people are realizing how group coaching, team coaching is very effective. And also from a revenue standpoint, you think about if you were to charge an individual, let's say $300 a month, most group coaching is about 50% of what you would charge an individual. So if you charged $150 a month for a group coaching class and you had 10 people, you would actually make more money doing group coaching than you would individually. And so once you really know how to coach well an individual, many coaches are adding group coaching to their offerings. And especially in this day of COVID, then you can see why a lot of companies are interested in finding people who have coach training, who can do group coaching and team coaching. And so, yeah, exactly, Matt. Now that we're experts at Zoom, we know how to do this. So we'll talk about that. So Keith, why don't you pick up from here?
Yes. So we are, so I want to just kind of go over a little bit. We were trying to keep this to a 45-minute appointment today for y'all, but we'll stay on a little bit after if you can't do it. But we talked about the mindset of money and how your mindset makes a difference in being able to do any kind of offering anything. If your mindset is a taking mindset, then it will feel bad to you and you don't want to do it. And instead, if your mindset is a serving mindset, then you want to serve others. And so offering people what you have is going to be fine and won't bump into your own convictions, right? So getting your mindset squared away is one takeaway from today. Another one that is in there is, do you need help with that? As you're talking with people, just saying, do you need help with that? And allow that to be a starter or a continuer to continue the conversation, and then to use your coaching skills as you talk with people, listen to people, hear from them, and do that kind of thing. So Charles put the link in there, and you've got Charles put the link in there so you can see the different each week. It's detailed out what's going to happen in the 10 times. So we don't want to go over each one there, but I do want to just mention to you a little bit about how this is a hybrid type of course in a way. So we're using the coaching, the essential marketing bundle, which are 2 courses, these are self-study online courses that if you've been in the coaching mastery program in recent years, you already got it. And so, but these are going to be the backbone of the course that Charles is going to do, because people have asked us, they've worked through the self-study bundle on their own. I have a course in there, how to package and price your coaching services, and then how to present it like this. And people work through it on their own, but they only got so far. And what they really want is to be able to dialogue with it and come back and say, okay, so here's what I'm talking about. That's what Charles is going to do with you for 10 weeks in a row, at 10 weeks going through that. And so it's going to build off of all the good material, though, that's in launching your coaching practice, that self-study course, and pricing and packaging your coaching services, that self-study course. So those are included in the fees for this course. If you already have it, then you're set. But if you don't, you're still going to get it. So those are included in the fees for the course to go through it like that. We really believe that you can come out of this course with not only the encouragement and the support, but the know-how and the tools to be able to get those, what we're seeing as 3 or 4 clients who are paid. Think about it. If you had 4 clients who you're charging $200 a month, which you're going to meet with them twice a month, and you're charging them $250 a month. That's 4 clients is $1,000 a month. If you had 5 clients at $200 a month. So remember, if somebody's working, if they're working on something that's important to them, $200 a month is not a big deal. So if you've got it, that's how it adds up. And so we want to help you get there and do that. So with that, we want to say thank you for coming on. I'd love to have you just drop into the chat box your comment, your takeaway, your highlight from today. And at the same time as we're doing that, we want to field any questions that you've got. And so you can unmute yourself and ask. You can also put it in the chat box, but if there's a ton, they're going to zip past us really quick. So we'll just see what we can do. But if you have a question, Charles and I are going to stay on and can ask questions. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming today. So you want to come on and ask a question? Somebody unmute and ask.
Keith, do you want to keep recording, or do you want to turn the recording off?
Yeah, let's keep the questions going. on there.
All right.
I have a question. This is Mark
Yes.
Tony, if you can hear me, Keith.
Yes.
So I have this actually just happened 2 days ago. A very close friend, and we kind of got into this like, hey, let's have a conversation. He's in a tough spot, and I'm gonna have this conversation with him. But he's such a close friend. I feel like after this conversation, asking him for money could hinder the relationship. I know it's a lot of mental game, but what are some of your thoughts on how to present that?
Charles?
Oh, great. You give me the hard one.
That's why I gave it to you. You're the
That's
MCC, man. I'm just PCC.
That's right. Well, I was looking at, I was reading everybody's highlights there. So,
Yeah.
Matt,
So, yeah, go ahead.
yeah. So just ask your question one more time.
So the question is, I have a very close friend, and we just set up a coaching conversation actually tomorrow morning at 8:30.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have this conversation. I've never asked a close friend to pay me, so I was wondering how to navigate that.
Yeah. And it would be interesting to find out what his expectations are as you go into it. It may be water under the bridge. One nice way to transition might be if he brings it up, you could say, hey, just pay me what it's worth. Or if you want to really be gutsy, and this is one of the things that we're going to work on, is we're going to talk about it in week 7, charging more than you think you can. Just say, my normal charge is $250 a month, and see what he says. Or you may say, listen, I'm going to do this because we're friends and I need the practice. So those are 3 options that you could consider, but it is hard with friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you,
Thank
Charles, Matt. Somebody else want to pop on and ask a question?
So in this time, where do you see coaching to going with the whole sickness and COVID and everything? Do you guys see it going in a specific direction, or I don't know? I was just kind of
So
curious.
everything I'm getting from people who already have coaching practices, they're busier than ever. So people are coming out of the woodwork. If you were able to, if you were helping somebody with something that they would need help with, and in this condition and environment needs help with, they want it. They want the help. People are scrambling. So if you're helping with, well, part of it's us. We're picking something that is going to earn you some money as to what we're going to offer. Because a lot of people are looking for, oh my gosh, my work just cut by a third. They made a paycheck cut. So what can we do? And Charles and I are sitting here, well, we know what to do, offer coaching, but it's not just to write an article. If we could write a blog article or do a 1-hour webinar and suddenly you're making 1,000 more a month, we'd do it. But it takes a walking through it. So that's what we're doing. But for other people, you might shift the message that you have in coaching. So if you, in other words, you're writing to your audience, right? So who's your audience? If your audience are business people, or if your audience are homeschool folks, you're going to write to that same audience, but you might change the message to fit the times. And so one of the things that we did, it's not coaching, but we're a training organization, right? We train people how to coach. So one of the training things we did was we offered a free how to overcome stress with brain science workshop. We offered that. It's right on our homepage. If you go to creativeresultsmanagement.com, you can see the webinar, the video of it and watch it. Or you can participate in it live on Wednesday, but no charge at that. It's not leading to anything other than less stress, right? So other people I've seen, like Tammy's right on here. I see Tammy on my screen. Wave, Tammy. Yes, Tammy. Tammy's been great. She's been getting on Facebook Live every day and sharing out what's on her heart and what's on her message. Well, guess who's watching that besides her friends and family? The people who are in her audience. And some of those people, presumably, if she puts in a little thing in there, if you're dealing with these kinds of things, I can help you with it. I coach through, I have a process to coach through. She could add just a little tagline like that. I don't know if you have or not, Tammy, but you could add a little tagline just like that, and then people will come to you. Yeah. Other questions?
Got a question for you here, Keith.
Yes.
So one of the things is that, like, as I try to narrow my niche, and I think that's really a good idea. So personally, my background is information technology executives. So I tend to attract people who have that background. And my concern would be that their expectation would be that I actually go away from coaching and more towards advising. So in other words, I want you because you know how to do what I do. And so end up getting questions that, or a discussion that sounds less and less like coaching and more like kind of drifting over towards specifically consulting.
Yeah, so that's a classic problem that we get is expectations of people coming in because they don't understand what coaching is. And so the way that you overcome that, I think in a nutshell, the way you overcome it is you have to be competent enough in your coaching that you can immediately coach and help people get value. And then they won't be asking for more and more, tell me, because they're already getting answers. But they're doing it through a coaching process. And so that's where your technical skills as a coach come in huge, because if you can't deliver in the sense of, so in coaching, we're making promises. We're saying, look, Charles and I are making a promise. We're making promises of, if you come to this course, you're going to get better at your marketing and you're going to at least move towards that 1,000 a month if you do what we're saying. And that's what we're saying. That's the problem we're solving. Now, if we don't deliver on that and everybody in there goes, man, I still don't have a dime and I didn't get one new client by the end, and they did all the work. Well, you see what I mean? That's our problem is the thing. But when you get through it and the people start getting it, when you deliver what you say you're going to deliver, even if it's not you telling, we still deliver as coaches by helping people reflect, find the answers and so on, using questions, listening and so on. That's what I mean by deliver.
Yeah, and Jack, I would add, some people that there's two primary tools that we use in coaching: powerful, open-ended, concise questions, and active or reflective listening. But there is a third tool, direct communication, not directive. I like to call it value add statements. And that's where, with your industry specific knowledge, you can add value by making statements without telling that client what to do. And so that's another thing to think about. And for a corporate executive level coaching, if you don't do that, they don't want a coach who's just going to interrogate them and repeat like a parrot back what they said. That's not going to be what the market responds to. So you've got some opportunities, and all of that, you're staying within the realm of coaching.
Sure. Yeah.
Good. Other questions? Feel free to chat.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a bunch of good comments in here as far as what people got from it, and also I'm looking for questions.
Thanks, Ian.
Oh, you're talking about somebody's asking about qualifications. They need a PCC and so on. For me, it's you need to be able to help your client. In other words, if you say, I can help you go through this kind of problem or reach towards this kind of goal, and then you can't, that's what's not good, right? So whether you're an ACC coach or a PCC coach or MCC coach, if you can't help people get to those ends, then that's not good. So qualification isn't really the point as much as you're able to help your clients with that. Now, the idea being, if you can move up in your coaching skills, you'll be more helpful to your client. But there's not always a one-to-one correlation to that.
Yeah, and you've heard me say this to some of you, those of you that have been through Coaching Mastery or Coaching Excel, that you have the training that you need to charge for coaching. And so even if you're not an ACC, I still believe you can provide great value and still charge for it, and charge more than you think you should charge. And so some of that is your mindset. And that's what we're hoping to help you get over that hump.
Yeah, that's great. So what other questions or comments do you have?
I throw in for Sweden, the ICF in Sweden just sent out to everybody an initiative where they're partnering with a kind of conglomerate of small businesses, and
Okay.
asking if ICF coaches would be willing to give 3 hours to different people, and you can sign up for that. And I think it's just a brilliant initiative in this time. I don't know if other ones are doing that, but of course, if you're giving value to those companies and
Yes.
those managers, whatever, they have the opportunity to partner with you after that. And it's also very much goodwill for your website or anything else, because that is just serving them.
Yeah. And week 9 in the course that we're going to do is how to get raving referral partners who will market for you. And one way to do that is to serve people during this time of need. When you serve people and without, even if you aren't charging for them and you're just volunteering to do that, when you serve them, they want to give back to you and become a referral partner for you. So they may bring you work, or they may send other people your way. Great
I've
point,
also
Steph.
heard some coaches, yeah, great, Steph. I've heard some coaches that have done deferred payments. And it's like, well, let's go ahead and start coaching because you need it. And then 2 months, 3 months, whenever your income comes back, then we can settle out later. But don't let the lack of money right now prevent us from helping you.
Yeah. So one of my big things, and I talk about it in my online course, Pricing and Packaging Your Coaching Services, which is included in this thing, that's why I'm mentioning it, is the price is the weak marketing tool, is cutting price. And what it is you're basically just going to the lowest common denominator. It's like you don't think it's worthwhile, but if I make it cheap enough, maybe you'll still do it. You see the problem there? I completely disagree with that. And what we need to do is we need to make it, when we have a conversation and we are setting like the coaching agreement and the whole first session idea of we teach about having a coaching series goal. In having that discussion regarding the coaching series goal, their coaching series goal needs to be so dynamic and so exciting for them that they will go to the bank and borrow money if they need to be able to get it. That's when you're tapping into what their real needs are and what they're really passionate about. And so if we have to cut price, constantly, and I'm not talking about, somebody's lost their job and therefore, hey, if you don't want to pay $1,000, forget it. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm saying is people, when they're starting off, they immediately think, how cheap can they make it? And I'm like, that's the wrong way to think. It's how valuable can we make it? In other words, this conversation is going to be this valuable, and then put an appropriate price on it that works for that person. Instead of, I'm not sure I really want to do it. Well, what about for $10 a session? You see how that's a losing game there? Yeah. So we want to get out of that cycle.
Yeah. So Jeff has a question.
Yeah.
And also Kathleen. Jeff, obviously there's a lot of factors that go into that.
What's the question? You got to read it.
Yeah, right. The question is, I found 150 per session to be very acceptable to my clients. You feel that's a good rate? I used to charge $90 when I started 7 years ago. As I got more training, I continued to increase my prices. Yeah, I think that's good. As you get more training, you get more confidence, you get more results, you can raise your prices. A lot of it depends on who your niche is. Jeff, knowing you and your coaching, I would think that you could charge more. And also, one principle is we don't charge for the time, we charge for the value. And Jeff, I know you can provide more value So I would encourage you to think about raising your prices and charge by the value, not by the hour. Kathleen, you had a good question about corporate clients who were asking to postpone or cancel their coaching. Perhaps a deferred payment plan might be helpful, but I think you've got you can offer so much to them during all this crisis and change. I mean, before COVID, change was crazy, but now even more crazy. They need you now more than ever. And so even if it means deferred payments or, work with them to try to help them, regardless of the money situation at this point. So that might help.
Yeah, I would get I mean, without knowing the story behind the different clients, I would get an appointment with them and say, let's keep with our next appointment. And then on that appointment, I would talk, because the goal they were working on might be irrelevant. And that's why they're thinking, hey, I don't need to meet with you anymore. But actually, as Charles said, you have so much to offer them right now. And if you could have a conversation with them about what you could do to support them right now, they might go, oh my gosh, if you can help me with that, I'm totally in and want to keep going. So I would try and get an appointment with each client who's trying to stop coaching, and so that we can relook at what it is we're doing together.
Yeah. Simon mentioned this. How does having a clear vision and a just cause beyond what you want to go help setting what you charge to help you succeed with this? So it's kind of a long question, but something that I thought of here, Simon, is when clients say, well, Charles, I need help with time management. Now I know that is a complete smoke screen. They don't want help with time blocking or to-do list management. I always take that kind of with the philosophy, go deep or go home, Charles. And so time management is never the issue. It's always something so deep. So I think that's where your question of a clear vision and a just cause helps go below the surface. And I think that's just a great thing about professional services. Always go beneath the presenting issue to get to the true heart of things.
Yep. Great. Simon is saying, and also the value of value-added service beyond what you charge, like blogging, etc. Yeah, and that's one of the ways that people get. So somehow you need to be. Here, I'll give you another tip. You guys stayed all the way to this long. Here's another tip. Somehow you need to be recognized by your audience as a value-adding expert in something. You need to be recognized by your audience as that. Coaching's not the something. It's what does the coaching produce? It produces some result. That's what you need to be seen as not the authority or the expert, but somebody who know that they say, oh, you know who? Charles knows about that. Or, Matt knows about that. Or, Stacy's the one you want to talk with. She's this kind of thing. That's what you want to get. So how do you get that? There's a book. I'll grab it because I have it. This one. It's been out for a while. In fact, it even comes in a comic book form. I don't have it. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Book Yourself Solid by Michael Porter.
Okay, it comes in comic book form, which is how I read it. So it's Book Yourself Solid. You can get the professional version, and then the comic book version of it. But Book Yourself Solid. The interesting thing about it is, and it's a bit, well, I bet he's updated it too. But the interesting thing is he says you've got to become an expert so that your audience sees you as an expert or have experience in something. Okay. And then he goes through chapter by chapter. You can do that by starting a blog, starting a podcast, doing public speaking, doing this, writing a book, do. And it's basically, every communication means is available to you. You could do short classes. You could do like, I was talking about Tammy earlier. Tammy's going on Facebook and doing Facebook Live things every day. And if what she's talking about is serving her audience, she's developing that expertise for her audience. It doesn't matter whether 20 people watch her or 100. Those 20 or 100 people are starting to see her as Tammy's the one, she's the go-to person for this. And so when she invites them to join her to coach through this stuff more, then that's how they see her. So it's about developing that, it's not just image there. You have to be able to deliver. And so that fake it till you make it, I kind of get that. And it's a funny saying, but at the same time, you've got to be able to deliver some of it. And then as you deliver it, you'll get better at it. I get that part of that. Yeah. Well, hey, we got to wind down. It's been great and to have you on here today. Thank you for staying with us and coming on. We can see that this is a huge topic. It's why we're picking it up right now. And so we really invite you to join Charles on this 10-week process. It starts April 20th. So if you have any more questions about it, feel free to write email into Charles or me. But help at creativeresultsmanagement.com. You can always find the links at our website like that. Thank you very much for joining, Charles. Good to partner with you on this.
Great to see everybody.
All right. Take care.
See ya.